What this lens brings to the table is nothing short of incredible. So yeah, this is the brand new 12-24mm F5.6 zoom shift lens from Laowa. And before we begin, I'm just going to say that this lens is a masterpiece of engineering. Let's take a closer look at it. First off, the build quality of this lens is absolutely fantastic, with an all metal construction. On the outer edge of our lens is our focus ring. Next up we have the internal zoom ring. Then we have our aperture ring. Next we have our shift ring, which needs to be unlocked. And then this can give us plus or minus 7mm of offset on the lens itself. Now don't worry if you're not familiar with this shift feature, because I'll be doing my best to explain how this works and showing you real world examples of how it potentially can improve your photography. And finally we can rotate the lens in any direction and take full advantage of that shift feature. Now the lens structure is made up of 15 elements in 11 groups. Now removing the bottom cap, we can see there's no connection points, and that's because this lens is totally manual. It's also missing any type of weather sealing. Right, that's enough of the technical jargon for now. Let's head off out and show you exactly what it can do. Now, as previously mentioned, this lens is totally manual. It does come with that shift feature built in, which I'm going to demonstrate right now. So yeah, we can offset the lens up to 7mm in any direction, but how does this affect our image? Well, the best way to show you is to record through the camera whilst altering our shift. Now, as you saw in that demonstration, we was raising the lens, but we can also move it side to side by rotating the lens and adjusting the shift ring. Even though we can only adjust this shift feature plus or minus 7mm, the effect it has on our image is a lot more profound. Let me give you an example. Now, the orange sheet of paper represents roughly the field of view from the lens, and by shifting the lens over by 7mm, you would expect the field of view to be adjusted also by 7mm. But this isn't what really happens. Our field of view changes a lot more drastically. Now, how this lens is able to actually achieve this, I have no idea at all. I think it's down to some Harry Potter magic, some very clever engineers at Laowa, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, and obviously the elements of glass within inside the lens. Watching back over the footage directly from the camera again, you will see that our field of view is altered a lot more than the 14mm of adjustment we have in the lens, whilst also not distorting or warping the image like you'd expect to happen if we was to use the ball head on a tripod and tilt the camera backwards and forwards. This is because the sensor inside our camera remains stationary. So I've finally found a composition that I'm happy with, and I'm going to take 3 photos, and in between each photo I'm going to move the shift on the lens into a new position and then stitch all 3 images together in post. And this is the image that I ended up with. And even though this is technically a 3 photo vertical panorama shot, there's no warping or distortion that we would normally associate with panoramic photos. As previously mentioned, this is all down to the fact that the sensor inside our camera remains stationary and the lens is the only thing that moves. So we're going to go hire one of these Santander Boris bikes. We're going to go find some really good architecture and buildings that can use this lens to its maximum. So let's go see what we can find. Yep, just got lost down a dead end street. So I eventually found my next shot, and I'm going to use that building across the road there as my centerpiece. We're going to be using this Laowa lens to get a panorama from left to right to hopefully get a half decent photo. So this is what I ended up capturing. Now this single image is again made up of 3 separate photos stitched together in post. And as you can tell from the photo, I'm using an ND filter to slow down that shutter speed so that we get that blur off the vehicle, so that represents energy and motion in our scene. Now obviously you don't need to use the shift feature built into this lens. You could just use it as a standard 12-24mm zoom lens and take regular photos. But by having that shift feature built inside this lens, it's like unlocking an extra mode inside your camera that cannot be replicated any other way. Now some of you may have noticed that my camera is mounted directly onto my tripod and doesn't have a ball head. Now I was going to claim this was to save weight and to make the camera more stable, but unfortunately that wouldn't be telling the truth. What really happened in my haste to get to London, I accidentally forgot it and left it at home. This meant I had to adjust all the 3 legs on the tripod every time I wanted to level up the camera. Now just before we get to the next destination, it's worth me pointing out that the filter thread is built into the metal sun hood on this lens, and it's a 77mm filter thread. Now if you're enjoying this video, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you enjoy anything related to cameras, whether that be tech or reviews or tutorials, consider hitting that subscribe button, because that's all we do on this channel. So we're at our 3rd location, and I couldn't not stop at the iconic Piccadilly Circus. And just as before, this is a 3-shot panoramic photo stitched together in post. Now if you'd like me to do a tutorial video on how to take the shot and then how to do the post-processing to get images like this, let me know in the comment section below and we'll do a follow-up video with this very lens. Now before we move on to the final destination, which was my favourite, we're going to take a look at the sharpness of this lens, because if you haven't already noticed, it's extremely sharp. So at 12mm with an aperture of f5.6, centre sharpness is just incredible, and the outer edges of our frame are only slightly softer. Stepping down to f8, corner sharpness becomes excellent and remains excellent even at f11 and f16. Zooming out to 24mm at f5.6, centre sharpness is still incredible, and once again corner sharpness is only ever so slightly softer. But stepping down to f8, f11 and f16, corner sharpness is absolutely fantastic, and even at f22 corner sharpness is incredible. So we've made it to our final destination, which is Chinatown. Now as we've progressed on this lens review journey, you may have noticed that this lens really does unlock your creative ability, because it forces you to look at the scene in a different way. And as I say, this is my favourite photo of the day. Just the way the colours pop, the energy from the amount of people, and the structure to the photo, in my opinion, makes it look absolutely fantastic. Let me know what you think to it in the comments section below. So where does this leave us then with this lens? Well, as I said at the start, this is a masterpiece of engineering. I'm already biting at the bit to get back out with a camera and this lens, and I would love to do some interior photography with it, some landscape photography, and even some nighttime street photography would be excellent. There's something very satisfying with this lens being totally manual and you having to get all the settings right, not only on the lens but also in camera, to try and get the perfect photo. Any concerns that I had about this lens's aperture not being fast enough, soon evaporated as I realised that you really do need to use this lens with a tripod and to really take your time on your composition and structure of your photo. The only issue I had with this lens was at times when changing the shift I would accidentally knock the aperture ring, but that was just down to my fat fingers getting in the way. Now if you are interested in a tutorial video on how to adjust this lens to take them perfect photos, let me know in the comment section below and we'll head back out with this very setup. Now I'm going to leave links to this very lens in the description and in the top pinned comment, so make sure you go check it out because it's absolutely fantastic. But that's going to wrap this video up. If you've enjoyed it, please give it a big thumbs up, and if you want to see further videos from myself, hit that subscribe button and we'll catch up in that next video. See you soon everyone.